sustained partners, although we recognize that this is a bilateral negotiation, and we have indicated to both parties that as necessary and appropriate, we will offer bridging proposals, but I repeat, this is a direct bilateral negotiations between the parties with our assistance and with the assistance of our friends and allies. And although nobody has asked it, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge and recognize the enormous support and assistance we have received from many of our friends and allies. Egypt under President Mubarak, Jordan under King Abdullah, many of the other Arab states, the other members of the quartet, the United Nations under Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who has been extremely helpful in this process, the European Union with Lady Ashton as a foreign minister, and the Russia with Foreign Minister Lavrov have all been active and very helpful, along with other European states. So it's important to understand that while the United States is playing an important and active and sustained role, we do so with full participation, full input, full consultation, full discussion, and we hope full support from a wide variety of allies whose efforts have been extremely important in getting us to this phase and will be extremely important in reaching a conclusion.
Operator, we'll go to take 2 or 3 questions from the White House Press Corps.
Thank you. Our first question comes from Philip Hartley with Washington Today. Please ask one question.
Good morning. Actually, it's true. I apologize. Have all the invited parties accepted the United States' invitation to weigh in next month? And the Secretary mentioned references to peace of the world. And as an envoy of peace, wanted to know what your thoughts are on whether the proposed mosque be built at the Ground Zero site.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
We're not here to talk about that latter subject. We'll take the next question. What was the question?
The first part was
Have they accepted?
What was the first part?
Have they accepted the invitation?
We have been in consultation with both. We expect to hear from them shortly, but it will be their decisions on whether to accept.
We'll take the next question, Operator.
Thank you. Our next question is from Jonathan Broder with Congressional Quarterly.
Do both parties have to ask for the U.S. to step in with its bridging proposals, or is it enough for one party to ask for that bridging proposal?
We're getting a little bit ahead of the game now to be speculating on what may or may not occur well into the process. As I stated earlier, this is a direct bilateral negotiation with the active and sustained support of the United States. And we will make bridging proposals at such time as we deem necessary and appropriate. But I don't want anyone to have the impression that we are somehow going to supplant or displace the roles of the parties themselves, nor do we have any view other than that this must in the end be an agreement by the parties themselves.
We'll take one more, Operator, then we'll come back here to this.
Thank you. Ron Campes with JTA.
Thank you. One technical question. It doesn't, and then a real question. On September the 2nd, are you actually launching direct talks on September the 2nd, or are the leaders getting together with the Secretary to discuss the relaunching of direct talks? And the other thing, what role, if any, does Hamas have in this process?
The first question is yes, we are launching direct negotiations beginning on September 2nd. And the second question is none.
Is relaunching the direct negotiations without preconditions means that we are relaunching the direct negotiations without terms and references?
Only the parties can determine terms of reference and basis for negotiations. And they will do so when they meet and discuss these matters. As you know, both we and the quartet have previously said that the negotiations should be without preconditions.
Thank you. Can you tell us whether they're going to start from scratch, or will they build on what talks that during the Almert period? And the second question is whether Israel is expected to continue the freeze. Do you think that they'll continue the freeze? Do you think the Palestinians will continue their boycott of settler goods?
The parties themselves will determine the basis on which they will proceed in the discussions in response to your first question. In response to the second, our position on settlements is well known and remains unchanged.
So
We've always made clear that the parties should promote an environment that is conducive to negotiations. And as the Secretary said in her statement a few moments ago, it's important that actions by all sides help to advance our effort, not hinder it.
Charlie?
Sir, just to follow up on that and a previous question, your position is well known on settlements, but the Israelis, when they've chosen to, have ignored it and gone ahead with settlement construction as they've seen fit to do. Do you have any understanding from them that they will not do that this time? And referring to the earlier question on Hamas and your quick answer that they will have no role, how do you get around the fact, even in the best of all circumstances, that you negotiate an agreement? How do you get around the fact that Hamas is playing a huge role in Gaza?
With respect to the first question, let's be clear that the declaration of the moratorium itself last November was a significant action which has had a significant effect on new housing construction starts in the West Bank. And as I said, our position on settlements is well known, remains unchanged, and we expect both parties to promote an environment conducive to negotiations. With respect to Hamas, let's be clear, Hamas won a legislative election. They acknowledge the continued executive authority of President Abbas and his team, and it is entirely appropriate that we negotiate with the executive head of that government. When Democrats regained control of the Congress in 2006, that didn't end President Bush's tenure as president, and others who wanted to negotiate with the United States negotiated with the legally elected and then chief of our executive branch of government. And that is the situation here.
So you expect Hamas to accept any decision made by President Abbas in these negotiations?
It is not for me to make decisions for others.
We'll take one more here, then we'll go back up to the phone.
Senator Mitchell, is it your understanding that this would be a shelf agreement, something to take effect at a later date when political conditions in the Palestinian territories allow? Or is it your understanding that this is something that would take effect in a very short period after it was agreed?
That's obviously subject to the results of the negotiations. We are not creating limitations or restraints upon what the parties may agree to. Our hope is that there will be an agreement that will end the conflict for all time and will result in the establishment of a viable, democratic, and independent state of Palestine living side by side in peace and security with Israel.
Operator, we'll take one or two more from the phones.
Thank you. Our next question on the phone is Margaret Talley with McClatchy Newspapers.
Hi, thanks for taking our questions. The Palestinian press has reported that the U.S. put the harshest pressure to date on the Palestinians to get them into the talks. What I want to know is why did the U.S. feel that this was the time, in the Palestinians' view, to bully the Palestinians into talking, considering the politics of the Israeli administration right now?
The United States position has been well known from the time that this administration entered office. We have and we do favor direct negotiation between the parties to resolve the conflict and to produce an agreement that results in two states living side by side in peace and security. We have encouraged the two parties to enter into such negotiations, and they have now agreed. And we believe it's the right thing to do. We think that both of the leaders believe it's the right thing to do, and we believe it's in the best interest of the people they represent.
We'll take one more operator from the phone.
Thank you. Susan Garrity with News Talk Radio.
Hello, Senator Mitchell. You hearkened back to the Northern Ireland peace process, and as you certainly recall, the President then played a very intimate role in that. Considering that many Americans themselves are even confused about President Obama's religious affiliation, do you feel like the people of the Middle East on both sides of this issue will see President Obama as an honest broker and someone that they can actually reach out to in that same intimate fashion?
Yes, I do believe that they do and will continue to regard President Obama in that fashion. I will say that from the outset, both he and the Secretary of State have played an important, indeed critical role in this effort. Both are deeply involved on a regular basis and deeply personally committed to the cause of a comprehensive peace in the Middle East. I think that is not only widely recognized throughout the region and the world, but very much appreciated, and in particular throughout the region.
We'll take a couple to wrap up. Go ahead.
Yes.
The total settlement freeze never happened, so I was wondering how can these talks be considered authentic in the region when that demand was never met?
We believe that there is a basis for proceeding and achieving a successful result, and we're going to pursue that. We do not take the position that if you don't get everything you want the first time you ask for it, you pack up your bags and go home. If that had been the standard applied in South Africa, there would never have been peace there. In Northern Ireland, there would never have been peace there. In Bosnia, there would never have been peace there. It takes patience, persistence, a willingness to go back again and again, to not take the first no as a final no, to not take the 50th no as the final no, or the 100th no. We are patient, we are persevering, and we are determined, and we believe there is a basis for concluding a peace agreement in the region, and that's what we're going to pursue.
Senator, do you understand that you expect Abbas to accept entering these talks without preconditions?
Both the United States and the Quartet have said that we believe there should be direct talks without preconditions. And we also have said many times that we think that these talks should be conducted in a positive atmosphere in which the parties refrain from taking any steps that are not conducive to making progress in the discussions, that they negotiate seriously and in good faith. And in all of these respects, we think that there is a basis for making progress.
So the talks won't be based on the Quartet statement of March 19?
The parties